What's up, Michigan fans? Welcome to another episode of the Believe in Michigan podcast. I am Brandon Brown, joined again by Mr. Grant Perry, former Michigan wide receiver. And we've got one episode in the books, Grant. I think it went well. It's been well received by the folks at Believe. We had some interaction on Twitter. I know you and I had a great time with it. We were on for an hour, and then we stayed on for another 20 minutes afterwards, probably maybe even 30. I don't know. We talked about different things that we're planning on doing. I'm not going to let a whole bunch of cats out of the bag just yet, but Grant has got some incredible lines in the water when it comes to potential guests for us. I'm super, super excited about that. Don't want to drop any names yet because we're still working on it, hoping that they will come through, but there is some potential for some incredible stuff moving forward this summer and then obviously into the season. And so, yes, excitement is still running high, Grant. I'm excited to get going on episode number 2 here, and things are off to a pretty good start. I was told I needed to back up. My face is kind of large for the screen. We need to make sure you're nice and centered and good for the whole episode. But other than that, man, episode 1 in the books, feeling good, feeling great about number 2.
Yeah, ready to go, man. I mean, episode 1, our first time getting on and chatting it up, talking Michigan sports, talking all things sports there. And it went well. I mean, we said, hey, let's talk 15, 20 minutes, see where it goes. And next thing you know, we're at an hour and we're like, all right, we should probably cut this thing off.
Yeah.
But no, it just really good chemistry first episode. We had a little bit of a run-in with how we posted it out to the people, to the fans, and Believe came through and said, hey guys, let's do it this way, get a few more clicks. But excited for episode 2. Ready to get it going. I think it's only going to get better. Like you said, we got some bait in the water. Hopefully, some of these potential guests can make appearances here down the line. I think there's no better time for guests, especially in the off season, when there's not much going on, whether it's coaches or players or former players, they have this downtime prior to the season, prior to camp coming in August. So I think we're right in the prime spot, and we'll just keep the ball rolling.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. So this is kind of funny, man. Like, we talked a little bit yesterday about what we might do for the episode today. And we said, yeah, we'll touch a little bit on recruiting. And it's insane how unplugged I am from recruiting compared to where that was my wheelhouse. Like, I was a recruiting reporter for Rivals. Like, that's how I got to start covering you early in your career. I mean, and at one point, every single player on the Michigan roster, I had probably had some interaction with when they were high school recruits, because they get an offer, you shoot them a DM, you do a quick little interview, you go to some of their games if they're local, obviously in-state kids. And right now, I feel very uninformed, and I'm just putting that out there because you and I both, I think, intend to get more informed. We started looking at the classes a little bit today, and just as kind of a little bit of a teaser, we're going to talk about a very recent offer that came through, and it's a no-brainer. It's an easy one to talk about. Some people out there, Michigan fans, may recognize the name Charles Woodson, and Charles Woodson Jr., which, again, the last episode you said that I was entering the waters of covering players' kids. Now, I didn't cover Charles. He got it going a little bit, quite a few years ago. But Charles Woodson Jr. is on the radar now with multiple offers. He's approaching double-digit offers. Just picked up his offer from Michigan. He's getting ready to start his junior year of high school down at Lake Nona in Florida. It's kind of crazy that you can say Charles Woodson Jr., you pop on his highlight tape, and there he is, and he looks like a bona fide D1 player. This is not a token Michigan offer because of who his dad is. He's got Florida State, he's got Iowa State, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. I mean, he's starting to put together a pretty nice offer list. I know you had a chance to watch his huddle tape, which again is highlights. This doesn't show game film from start to finish, but there's some really good things to notice on there from the, 5'11", a little bit slight now as a rising junior, but 155 pounds. But you like some things about his tape.
Yeah, I did. You cut his tape on, and first thing you notice, he's 5'11", 160, so a little skinny, little, smaller frame, but that frame is a lot to work with. He's got long appendages, arms and legs. I mean, this kid's going to really grow into his frame. And like you said, only a sophomore. The progression from freshman year to sophomore season was really good. 11 tackles freshman year to 53 tackles in his sophomore season. PBU, 2 PBUs this past year, and an interception to go along with that. But when you watch the tape, right, you 53 tackles, you're just gonna be watching a lot of hitting, but you look for little things in between that. How's his angles? Is he tracking the ball well, right? If that running back gets the ball off the edge, is he taking a good angle inside out, right? Because he's got help on the outside. If it's a too high safety look, he's doing all the right things as far as that goes. And like you said, this isn't one of those offers where it's, hey, it's a legacy offer. His dad is and probably will be the best player to ever come through the University of Michigan. No, he's had several offers already prior to Michigan. Like you said, Ole Miss, Florida State, Kentucky, Texas A&M. So this kid's on a lot of schools' radars, and I think it helps that who his dad is. I think we might have a little bit of upper hand, but we'll see how it plays out. A lot of time left in his high school career, and from 11 tackles to 53 tackles. Excited to see what that junior season brings.
That's a great point, and we talked a little bit before we started recording. You mentioned the frame. He's certainly lanky right now, but you're talking about probably a 15-year-old kid at this point. Lots of time to grow and develop. You'd think he has access to pretty good resources. If he's 155 now, I mean, we're probably talking 180, 185 by the time he finishes high school. Maybe another inch or two. I mean, this could be a 6 foot, 180 pound kid. I'm curious as to see where he'll end up being ranked. Right now, he's modestly rated as a 3-star by 24/7 Sports. I would expect that to maybe go up. He's certainly going to get attention because of who he is. He's starting to pick up some big time offers. I guess just what would be a reasonable expectation for? It's so tough when he's the son of Charles Woodson, man. Like, Michigan fans are going to be clamoring over this kid just because of his name, but like, how fair is it to be, to expect him to be phenomenal when he might just be a solid player? And again, it's early right now, but you put the tape on and it doesn't look like this is an all world. I mean, it's the best DB in the country. You're not seeing that right now, but what could happen with him as he moves forward?
Yeah. I mean, you look at, and a lot of the things you look at are the intangible things, right? Who's around him, what's his upbringing, right? He's in the best situation possible with one of the best people to lead him, his father, right? To show him the way. And yeah, like you said, he's not, a 5-star where he's 6'2", 200 pounds at safety right now, catching 8 picks and also playing offense at the same time. But I mean, if you're looking for another Charles Woodson, it might take another 50 to 100 years to get that through your program again. I mean, a defensive back that played both ways, that won the Heisman. I mean, that is rare air, if you will. So I think, if you're a Michigan fan and you're hoping that he comes, first off, he's got to commit and come here, right? That's the first thing. And, haven't talked to him, don't know his what he likes or what schools he's interested in, but who's to say he doesn't say, hey, I want to take a different path, right?
Sure.
I want to create my own legacy. So that I think that's the thing that Michigan fans should also keep in the back of their mind too, right? It's not necessarily a dead giveaway that he's going to come, right? Some of these, kids of former legends try to do anything in their, in their abilities to kind of separate themselves from their father and do their own thing, right? Make their own lane. But, with that being said, I mean, a lot to build on, a lot to grow. Like I said, he's real lengthy too. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised he spurts up to, 6'1", 6'2" even. And, junior year, I'd like to see him play a little offense too, right? That's something that his dad did at a very high level. And I think, if you're a really good athlete, if you say you are an elite athlete, playing both sides of the ball, especially in high school, I think would really benefit, him as well.
It's an interesting point to make. Some kids love the idea of following dad's footsteps. I mean, that, they're just born and bred. I mean, you think like recent memory, Aiden Hutchinson's a prime example. He just bled maize and blue. I mean, couldn't have pictured himself anywhere else. Rocked his dad's number. I mean, chased his dad's sack numbers. I mean, it was a given for him that that's the path he wanted to take. And other guys, you're right. They wanted, like, I'm my own person. Yeah, my dad was great. I love him to death. Like, that's my guy. That's my legend. That's my hero. But I'm going to carve my own path. I want to do so. And both routes are awesome for kids. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do that. So it'll be really interesting to follow his high school career over the next couple of years. I'm sure, like I said, Michigan fans will be paying close attention because of his name, as his profile continues to grow, as he continues to grow physically and as a player. And it'll just be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. So again, Grant and I do intend to have some more recruiting coverage moving forward, but that's a recruiting coverage, man. As someone who did it exclusively for 6 or 8 years, like, it's a full-time job. Like, you had, like, the offers are going so early. Like you mentioned this kid right here. I mean, this is Charles Woodson's kid, and he's getting offers right now as a freshman, sophomore in high school. And it happens early. You see 7th and 8th graders picking up offers. I mean, it's wild out there. So it's tough to stay completely plugged into recruiting, but it's something that I've always had a pretty big interest in. And so definitely something we want to focus on a little bit more. When you were coming up, man, I just think back to when I played the video games a lot. recruiting was almost like more fun than playing the game. I mean, were you like that, or like there would even be times where I would simulate like a season just to get to the recruiting. Like that's how into it I was, and I was super pumped to get a job in that. But it's not for everybody. Like where do you fall on the recruiting world?
Yeah, I mean, so it's new territory to me as well. You know, kind of stepping into this media sphere here, post playing, post coaching. You know, when you're in the fold as a recruit, you know, it's kind of a whole different world, right? You are what we're talking about right now, a recruit. You're in that life. You're being recruited to all these schools, and you're meeting all these guys on different visits. But you never take the time to really think about the magnitude and the scale of recruiting, right? You know, it's a huge river that just never stops flowing. I mean, there's always offers going out. You know, it seems like each year each year offers come out to guys that are younger and younger, right? You see the 8th grades, the 7th grades that are, you know, like, whoa, this kid must be unreal. You know, so there's a lot that goes into it. I'm learning that now, but it's fun because, like you said, it's like the NCAA video game. You know, you're just trying to find your talent, trying to recruit them, right? You're going into Ohio, trying to pull that blue chip recruit out of Columbus's backyard, or going down south and getting that speedster out of Florida. And just watching those stars pile up and you know, seeing how much the stars kind of do, like the ratings play a big role in.
They do.
You know, being in the office, you know, when I was coaching at Michigan, you know, they don't necessarily go off of the website and say, hey, we got to get these 5 guys, right? They're the top 5 on Rivals or 24/7. But they'll take a look at it, man. They look at it, they go through there, and they definitely use that as a database to kind of get a feel on who's hot and who's in the picture as far as, you know, top 100, top 300 recruits. But, you know, it's a whole different ball game. But, you know, it's fun to follow, and I'm getting excited. And I think that's the right perspective, kind of treating it like the NCAA video game, right? You know, kind of compiling our roster, seeing what Michigan's looking at. You know, I think if we treat it like that, I think we'll get A+ for our recruiting here by the time this offseason's done.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a ever flowing river of information and activity. That was something as a recruiting reporter that I found out when I was working at Rivals, and some of my guys who were like primarily team guys would struggle during the summer months. Like, there's just nothing going on. Like, what am I going to write about? I got to read this quota. I got to write this magazine article. And I'm like, shoot, I got plenty of stuff to do. If you get, you know, like offers are always going out. There's camps going on every summer. You can always hit up a kid and say like, hey, how's your recruitment going? What's up with Michigan? Like that well never dries up. So that's another thing that we can look forward to over these summer months as we head into the fall. Saturday, August 30th, man. That's the first day of Michigan season. Obviously, a week before that will be week 0. There's, 8, 10, 12 games, whatever it might be. But Michigan season kicks off on Saturday, August 30th against New Mexico. Night game, 7:30 p.m. We'll talk about that here in just a second. And then week 2 is a big one at Oklahoma. So we're going to go a little bit kind of not super detailed, but look at each week of Michigan's schedule right now as we are. I don't know, where are we at now? We were like 80 days out, something like that. How many days until August 30th?
I think like a few days ago, I said it was Loon Schoonmaker days till
okay.
So I think we're in the 80s.
85 days. I just checked it. So Scooney would have been 86, right? He wore at Michigan. Yep. 86. Schoonmaker days away. 85. Who's the 85 from back in the day? Kevin Koger? Was he 85?
I believe so.
Yeah. Mo Ways?
I literally was just thinking Mo Ways. Yep.
Mo Ways was 85. So there we go. So 85 days away from the season, August 30th, New Mexico. I guess we'll start right there. Thoughts on the night game? I don't want to call it like there's no slant to New Mexico, but Michigan only does a couple of night games a season. I don't want to say waste. That feels bad. It's the opener. It's going to be exciting, but it is New Mexico. Do you feel like season openers should be a night game? Should that be reserved for a noon kickoff like that? I don't know. It's got a weird vibe to me to start at 7:30 on the opener.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. You know, it's New Mexico, right? You're opening up the season versus an opponent. You never want to take an opponent lightly.
For sure.
Like you said, no slight to New Mexico.
Michigan will be like a 3-touchdown favorite in that one, though. Like, let's call a spade a spade, right? You know,
absolutely. So with that being said, you know, you want to generate hype. You want to get the first game off to a good start, right? You want to get the fans pumped. I'm sure there's going to be a fun light display going on at halftime. But, you know, like you said, there could be some strategic, schedule placement with that time slot that could be used in our advantage, versus, a Wisconsin at home or a Washington at home, or even, I know we don't do too many night games come November, but like a Purdue at home after Michigan State. Just an opponent maybe down the line when the crunching is crunching and we need to get wins. Let's use everything in our power to help us. I have that same question, and I always, the past couple of years is Penn State and why they don't use that whiteout at the end of the year more effectively. Like anytime they get Ohio State at the end of the year, I think they should have that thing rocking. So when they don't, it really confuses me because that is a big advantage, for them and it is for us too. But with that being said, I mean, New Mexico, it's going to be a great season opener. And I think it's a great segue into, I call it a reinforcement game, right? There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things that go wrong and new quarterback, Bryce Underwood, first snaps. So you're going to work that out, find out what works, find out what doesn't, find out what we need to work on in order for that next night game the following week in Norman, Oklahoma.
That is a different animal than hosting New Mexico at night, but you're right. I mean, yeah, Bryce Underwood, sky high expectations, but true freshman. I mean, that's a true freshman who will be very likely taking his first snaps, new coordinator on the offensive side of the ball, a bunch of new faces all over the place. We touched on that a little bit last episode. So yeah, I agree with you. There is certainly some things to figure out. Hopefully there's not a lot of mistakes made because you're not going to get away with them during week 2 at Oklahoma. That is a big one. I remember it's so crazy how far in advance they make these schedules. I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I'm like, who's really thinking about Oklahoma in 2025? It was probably like 2018 or something. I don't know, whenever they scheduled it. And now it's here. And that is a big, big game. That's another blue blood program on the road, week 2 night game in Norman. I mean, I don't have the entire national schedule pulled up, but that's as big of a week 2 game as you can imagine.
Yeah, it is. And I was thinking to myself last night, like there's a good chance that could be, college football game day, right? Game of the week where they're, posted up in Norman, watching the game as the Wolverines go down there and take on the Sooners, but Oklahoma, they've had some changes this year too. Quarterback transfer, John Mateer out of Washington State.
I like that kid actually.
Yeah, he's a runner and a thrower, really just a baller, man. And he's accompanied by new OC for them. What's his name? Ben Arbuckle. He came from Washington State as well. So they already have a little bit of chemistry as far as the quarterback and OC goes. And they also really upgraded their running back position as well with the Cal running back, Jaden Ott, who is a really good runner. So, I mean, this is no easy test. And I think a lot of what Michigan fans felt last year, 7-5, not exactly where you want to be. But, coming off a national championship, eased the pressure a little bit, finished the season strong with those 3 wins there at the end. But I think Oklahoma's kind of in that same picture, right? They're coming off a 6-7 season last year, first losing season in 23 years. So the Venables his seat's a little hot. I wouldn't say hot, but he's feeling the heat. And you best believe those boys are going to come out ready to play. And they're using that night game as an advantage week 2. Believe that.
Yeah, there's no question. Look, I'm just kind of looking at the schedule week 2. There's not many other high profile games during week 2. That's Saturday, September the 6th this year. I mean, that's probably going to be the most talked about game of the week heading up to that point. Oklahoma State at Oregon is an okay game, I guess. Just kind of there's so many games I'm scrolling through here. Sorry for not having this readily available, but Boston College at Michigan State. I mean, for local people, I was going to bring that one up actually once we looked at the Big Ten schedule. But yeah, that'll be primetime TV. 7:30, Michigan at Oklahoma. Very, very early prediction from Grant that game day might be there. And looking at the schedule, I think that's pretty realistic unless they've got some. Every once in a while, those first couple of weeks of the season, they'll do like a weird one-off, like at a small school rival type thing. But if it's not one of those, Michigan at Oklahoma looks like the big ticket that week. Week 3. Little bit of personal interest, baby. Fire up Chips. The Chippewas come to Michigan. That's my alma mater. Could
Talk
be
to me. What are the Chippewas bringing to Ann Arbor, man? What do we got coming week 3?
Could be ugly. Could be ugly. I'd be lying if I told you I knew a lot about Central's roster. I mean, obviously, once that gets a little closer, I'll dive into it a little bit more. But those are those directional school, those tune-up games that you hope the team looks sharp. Obviously, Michigan. It's interesting though because I mean I don't expect Central to be super competitive against the Wolverines, but you do have Michigan sandwiched between at Oklahoma, at Nebraska to start conference play. So you've got Central. I'm not going to call it a trap game because I just don't think Central's got enough talent to really compete. But you hope it's another one where you can sharpen up a little bit, eliminate errors because you can't make errors on the road at Oklahoma, and you can't make errors on the road at Nebraska. I mean, this is not a Michigan team that's poised for a 15-0 type of season. I don't think. When you're breaking in a new freshman quarterback and a new OC, you expect there to be some bumps in the road. So I don't know if we need to talk about Central a whole lot, but that next week at Nebraska is certainly an interesting one. I personally like Matt Rule quite a bit. I think he's going to do well there. It can be kind of hard to recruit in Lincoln, but he's been known to build programs wherever he's been. So that one's a little bit tricky. On the road at Nebraska stuff.
Yeah, it is. I mean, playing down there in Nebraska is not an easy task. I've never had the opportunity to play in Nebraska, but I mean, if you're a college football fan, you've heard of what that stadium can be like come a game day. And I view week 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 like it's kind of a copy and paste, right? You get your New Mexico game in, right, and that's the get right game, right? You want to wrinkle out any errors that you made in camp. You want to get that first hit on a different colored jersey.
Yep.
And then you're getting those things in motion for week 2, which Oklahoma obviously is going to be a little bit of a harder test than New Mexico, right? Then you get through your first 2 weeks, and then you got Central Michigan, right? Another get right game, a game that you're poised to win. Fix the wrinkles, fix the mistakes from Oklahoma, get sharp, ready to go for then another road game there the following week at Nebraska, like we just were saying. And Nebraska, they got some things to be excited about as well, man. Dylan Raiola stepping up into his sophomore season. He was in the headlines a lot last year. He set the freshman record for passing yards and completion rates. So I know the Husker fans are excited about that. I also noted that their O-line there, they got about 3 of the 5 positions solidified. So, they're tightening up their O-line there, and they got some key transfer receivers, one being Dane Key from Kentucky, a big body receiver to help Raiola there down the field. They also got a sophomore receiver, Ja'Cory Barner, who's a speedster, good freshman season. They're saying he's the fastest kid on their team. So he's another guy that's going to help Raiola in the pass game. And they also added a D lineman out of A&M, Elijah Judy, who's going to help their defense. And they feel like their best unit is their linebackers. So I think this is going to be a really tough test for our offense, but one that, it's a test for a reason, right? You have the opportunity to pass it. And hopefully come week 4 when this game is, we'll have some wrinkles fixed out and be ready to go.
And that is a 3:30 kick out in Nebraska. The Central game was a noon kickoff, and then TBD for the rest of them until you get to Ohio State, which is going to be at noon. This is an interesting schedule for Michigan. I don't remember it being like this in all the years that I've covered the team. I don't think. I mean, I could go back and look, but for 10 weeks in a row, Grant, they alternate home and away, home away, home away. That's. I mean, I remember many seasons where Michigan didn't even get ready for a road contest until October. I mean, they start off with 4 or 5 games in a row at home.
Yeah, but last year they 4 games at home.
Yeah,
first to start the season.
But obviously, when you go on the road week 2 at Oklahoma, and then your conference opener at Nebraska week 4, like that's gonna change it up a little bit. And then just kind of the way it came together, alternating every week after that. So week 5 is at home against Wisconsin. Week 6 on the road against USC. That's all the way out to LA. I mean, that's always tough. And then you got Washington at home, and then you go to Michigan State. So 4 games in a row of going home and away, home and away. A couple, USC on the road is always tough because of the travel, and it's USC. They're going to have talent. They've underperformed, but they're going to have some talent on that team. And then on the road at Michigan State, I don't think anybody expects them to be world beaters, but that's still your rival. That's still on the road, and you're still, you're past the halfway point at this point, so you're kind of who you are. It'll be very interesting to see who Michigan is during that week 8 contest against Michigan State. But yeah, this next chunk of 4 games where you're going home away with a couple of interesting road games in there. What do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, USC being the one West Coast game, that's nice that we're not traveling, 2 times the West Coast. I think, Oklahoma is our second furthest game, if I see that correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's a flip flop. It's home away, right? And concerns that come up, not being able to get into a little bit of a rhythm, right? You're home one week and you're away the next week. That comes to mind. But I think a benefit of this schedule, flip flopping home and away each week, is the aspirations for the Michigan football team, right? You want to win a Big Ten, you want to win a national title, you want to compete for a playoff spot, right? Out of these 12 spots, you're going to have to go play on the road most likely here come the end of the season, right? So being able to say, hey, we've played flip-flop, home, away, we're battle tested. Doesn't matter where we play or who we play. We've been there, we've done that. So I like that in that aspect for trying to get a playoff spot. I like the way the schedule is formatted. It's going to give guys a good taste of being on the road, not getting comfortable 2 weeks at home, 3 weeks at home. But that's going to be a tough stretch right there. That 4-game stretch, you got USC away, like you said, the jet lag, that's tough, right? You always got to incorporate that. You come back versus Washington, that Jedfish offense is going to be new and improved. We obviously had troubles with them last year, so hopefully this year we'll be able to sharpen things up at home. Then you got MSU, like you said. I mean, they're not a preseason top 25 team, but I mean that's MSU. You got to respect them. You got to take them seriously each and every year. That's a trophy game, and that's a game that cannot be taken lightly. And then you come back. You got home versus Purdue, which will be an interesting matchup as well. There, leading us right off before we have our first real trend. Following Purdue, you get 2 back-to-back road games, which is the only back-to-back of a road or home game that Michigan has this season, which would be Northwestern following Purdue, and then Maryland just before the Ohio State game. So I think that's a good stretch. And then, you get a little bit of a road test before the game come late November.
It's pretty interesting when you break up the schedule like into thirds. You break it, 4, 4, and 4. You mentioned like kind of a copy paste for those first 4. Again, no slight. I don't ever like to throw shade on. You never know how good a team's going to be, but you look at New Mexico and you look at Central as those should be your tune-up games. You're ironing things out. You're figuring things out. You've got the road Oklahoma, road Nebraska. So see if you can get it right. Go play a tough one on the road. Get it right. Go play a tough one on the road. Then you've got alternating home and aways with some intriguing. I mean, really all 4 of those games. Wisconsin is not a slouch. Washington is not a slouch. And then you're on the road for USC and Michigan State, like you said. Purdue at home. Not going to call it a layup, but that should be a win. And then on the road, on the road can always be tough, even though I would say Michigan should be better than both Northwestern and Maryland. And then you've got the big one at the end against Ohio State, which is in Ann Arbor this year. So, I mean, the schedule is intriguing. There's certainly some highs. There's a lot to be excited about for fans to be, tuning in, whether you're in person or watching on TV with some of these primetime games at night. Michigan will probably have 2 other home games at night since they've only got the one to lead off the season. I don't think the one at Oklahoma counts as one of their like night games, right? Like they get to pick 2 more for home games.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think so. Yeah.
That's probably what maybe Washington. Ohio State's already determined to be at noon. So you've got Purdue, Washington, and Wisconsin, and probably 2 of those are at night. What would you roll with if you're picking 2 night games? Is it the 2 W schools? You go Wisconsin, Washington, and play those at night?
Yeah, I think you do. Not slighting Purdue, but like just later in the season, it gets colder when it's nighttime, November. I think they try to get those night games in before it gets really chilly in November. So I could definitely see Wisconsin and Washington. I mean, Washington had our number last year, so why not give them a hard atmosphere, a tough one to come play in. It'll be interesting seeing Jedfish come back to Ann Arbor. And then, Wisconsin, they're always a solid team. So, having them at night could be beneficial as well. But I always like to kind of list out these teams and these games and just put it in like a line. You get your 6 home games and your 6 road games. 6 home games: New Mexico, Central, Wisconsin, Washington, Purdue, and Ohio State. And then for your road games, you got Oklahoma, Nebraska, USC, MSU, Northwestern, and Maryland. And then I go from there. I say, okay, if I had to pick one, which would I rather play? What group of teams? I would definitely rather play the home teams. So that's telling me we have a little bit of a home favorable schedule. And you may say, oh, our road is going to be tough. It's going to be, we might struggle. That might be the case. We might have some struggles, but that also makes us stronger, right? You're playing tougher teams on the road, I think really benefit us. And another thing to note too is there's 2 powerhouses that we're not playing this year as far as the regular season: Penn State and Oregon, which are both very hard on the road. And even if they come to play us, it'd be a hard game. So nice to see that we don't play them. Not that we don't want to play them. It's just, hey, we'll take the schedule that was given to us. We'll play it and let the cards fall where they do.
Yeah, I mean, you never want a cupcake schedule, but I mean, the season's a grind, man. The Big Ten is a grind. You've got Oklahoma already on there. Like we're going to get into that a little bit when we look at the Big Ten, the whole Big Ten schedule. I've got 3 teams I would like to shame right out of the gate. We're going to do that when we get started in just a second, but yeah, I mean, when you look at you'd like to hold serve at home, and then when you look at Michigan's home games, I think most of them look like wins. If I'm being honest with myself, in Ohio, except for maybe Ohio State, it's always the toughest game on the schedule. They're going to be really good again. They always are really good, but Michigan's had their number. So I think right now you'd have to say, like, even with some of the changes by week 12, that Michigan team is going to be sharpened up, and that should be a good one. But the rest of them feel like very winnable games. Then when you look at the road games, I think the first 3 road games are tough. I mean, you go to Oklahoma, to Nebraska, to USC. Those are tough games to win on the road. The final 3, then not so much. I would think Michigan should get W's on the road in those ones. So if you can talk about getting 5 of the home games for sure and 3 for sure on the road, you're at 8 already. And then you got to win it. You got to win a couple tough ones in there to try to get to that double-digit mark and get to 10 wins, and that probably puts you in the discussion for a playoff berth. So that's I love looking at it like that, looking at the home games versus the road games. And I mean, dude, it's June 6th. I mean, we don't even know what things are going to look like right now for most of the teams across the country, but teams kind of are who they are most seasons. And for the most part, teams certainly can take dips and you can have some surprises, but I mean, any random year you throw Michigan and Purdue out there, like, people are picking Michigan, like, let's just be real. When you look at the schedule, and again, it's June 6th, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, and I said there's probably 8, I'll call them for sure, very winnable games. Can Michigan get to 10 wins with a freshman quarterback, with a new OC, with Sharon Moore possibly missing some games? He's already going to be suspended for a couple. It's not like there's going to be some hurdles, man. It's not going to be smooth sailing. I mean, how do you see it playing out when you look at Michigan's schedule start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, so the question, 10 wins. And if I said no, I mean, I think I'd be doing them a disservice, adding unneeded motivation. You're coming off a 7-5 season. Yeah, you got some question marks around different positions, whether it's, quarterback, wide receivers, O-line. The defense is shaping up to be pretty solid again under Martindale. But, I think if I said they couldn't win 10 games, I'd be lying to you. I think just the sheer will. I mean, that Ohio State game last year, when they really put their minds to it, when they really buy into what these coaches are telling them, I think the sky's the limit. And I think if, Bryce Underwood gets a little comfortable, starts figuring out the rhythm, starts finding out who he can trust on the perimeter. I think our double-headed monster in the backfield and
big
is a really big beneficial thing for Bryce's game. So I think we can compete for 10 wins. No question about it. Is it going to be hard? Absolutely. Will it happen? I don't know, but I think I'd be wrong to say they couldn't win 10 games. I like win versus New Mexico Central. I think Wisconsin's going to be a tough game at home, but I think we can edge them out. That's going to be a gritty game. I can see that being like a 14-10 game.
Absolutely.
And then you got Washington. Don't sleep on Washington, man. Their quarterback that they had, really come out towards the end of the last season, a speedster, and I forget
dual
his
threat
name.
guy. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Speedy guy. They got receivers that can go get it, and their defense played well last year as well. Purdue, these are all home games I'm listing off first. Purdue, I think we can get that win, and then Ohio State, that's going to be a dogfight. We'll leave that to the November 29th to decide that one. And then you got Oklahoma on the road. That's our first really big test. That's going to be a tough one. I think that's going to be another dog fight. I think Oklahoma's offense has a little bit of a edge as far as experience in their quarterback and in their running back game, but I think both teams bring a great defense to the table, so that should be a great matchup. You got Nebraska. I think their offense is shaping up to be pretty solid. Defensively, they're another good defensive team, so that's going to be one of those games where it might, we might not, really score until late in the game when it matters. But I think we edge out a win versus Nebraska. USC, Lincoln Riley, he's got a new quarterback that is looking good. We'll see what pieces fall into place. I know they lost some guys to the transfer portal. So we'll see how they look. We got some time there to see how they develop in those first 6 weeks. And then MSU, I think we should should be able to handle Sparty's, Northwestern and Maryland as well. But again, it's the Big Ten, man. And with the transfer portal, NIL, like teams are balanced now, man. Teams can compete. This playoff is open, man. You had I'm blanking, SMU playing Penn State in the playoffs, man. So anything's possible. You never know. But do I think they can win 10 games? Yes. Is it going to be hard? Yes. Will it be fun to watch? Absolutely.
There you go. Real quick, the quarterback situation at Washington is actually kind of interesting. They brought in Kai Horton, a veteran transfer from Tulane as well, and then they have Damon Williams is the speedy guy that runs around, I think, for them. So there's a little bit of a
Washington?
battle for Washington. Correct.
Okay, yeah. Damon Williams, that's his name.
Damon Williams, yeah. So a little bit of a battle there, and Jed Fish's offense can be prolific at times, so that'll be interesting to see as we mentioned one of Michigan's tougher home games. All right. We'll end on this. I'm going to put you right on the spot. I'm just going to ask you, you got to make a decision right here. I'm going to do the same thing. We have talked. Grant and I dabble a little bit in sports gambling. I don't think I'd consider myself a degenerate. I don't exactly know how much Grant does it, but I'll throw $5 on a home run parlay. Sometimes when football season's around, I'll get pretty invested into it. Michigan is set by the books right now at 8.5 wins. Grant, are you taking the over? Are you taking the under? 8.5 wins for Michigan in 2025.
8.5. Let me run down this list again. Let me do my recognizance real quick here.
Ooh.
Give me over. I'll take 9.
I'm going over as well. I think I can go down. I can go down the list and find 8 pretty easy. I mean, the bookmakers are good at what they do, right? Like
easy for us, right? We're not the ones playing.
Sure, I'm sitting here. I'll be eating some food from my couch here in a minute. But yeah, I think when I go down the list, I can get to 8 pretty easy. And then the other 4, you got to get one. You just got to get one. You got to. I mean, I think if Michigan, like you said, they went 7-5 last year. If you can get to 8 or 9, maybe 10, I think that would be a phenomenal year with a freshman quarterback and some other new changes and things happening. And like I said, if you can get to 10, that probably puts you in the discussion for the playoffs. So we'll see. We'll see how that looks. So there's Michigan's schedule breakdown for 2025, and we'll continue to revisit this over the next couple months. We'll make more predictions. We'll talk about things that have changed and. We'll see if that line moves at all. Like I said, we're here on June 6th, and the line is set at 8.5 wins for Michigan. I would take the over ever so slightly as of today, and we'll see if anything causes us to change our minds on that. Let's take a look now as we finish up this episode at the Big Ten schedule as a whole. I kind of went through. I pulled up this graphic. From I'll just show real quick from the Big Ten website. If you want to go, I mean, it's a lot to consume, right? When you look at it. So I kind of went through it. I'm like, what's going on here? Jotting down some notes. And so there's just a few things. It's really just the first few weeks of the season, because once you get to week 4 and beyond, it's all conference play. So I don't need to focus a ton on that right now. Let's just talk about a few things out of the gate, Grant, and then we'll put a bow on this thing as we're approaching 40 minutes again. I knew that would probably happen once we get going on here, but I would like to shame 3 teams first. Can I do that? And you can
the floor is all yours.
You can give me your opinion on why I'm shaming these guys. I'm shaming Indiana. I'm shaming Penn State. And I'm shaming Maryland. Non-conference schedule for these 3 teams. Ready? And look, Penn State's going to have playoff aspirations, and I would guess Indiana is going to as well after their season. So this is how they come out in 2025 to start their campaign. Indiana will take on Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. Wow, terrible. Penn State will take on Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova, dipping down to the FCS ranks. And Maryland will take on, Maryland. I don't know what Maryland's aspirations are. They've been somewhat underperforming for a lot of years. They're always a team I feel like probably could and should be better than they are, but they just aren't for whatever reason. But they take on Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, and Towson. So those 3 teams, I think, when you look at their non-conference schedule, I just don't respect it. I'm shaming them, and that's it is what it is.
Hey, and you're entitled to that. I think that's a fair assessment. I think, obviously those 3 teams, when you look at these, opening few weeks, those teams definitely stand out. No shade when I say that. I didn't even know Villanova still had a football team. I'm not going to lie to you.
Right.
I thought they were, Jay Wright and the boys, Jalen Brunson. I thought that was just basketball, but no, I mean, if you're Penn State, though, you're licking your chops there. Hopefully, you get what you need in those first few weeks, because you got Oregon coming up after your bye week. But, if they can make a run, man, they got a favorable schedule. Indiana, and again, too, Indiana could pull off some magic again, like last year, win a few games here early on, make a late push, with those first 3 schools, it's, they should win that. And then, you said Maryland, FAU, NIU, and Townsend. Again, I think you're right in your shaming there, but
yeah.
We'll see how it plays out. I think Penn State definitely benefits from those first 3 games. We'll see though, because you're coming off those first 3 games, haven't really played anyone up to your caliber. Then you got a bye week, and then you're facing Oregon. So we'll see how that goes.
They sort of have a 3-week period to iron some wrinkles out. Then you get a bye, get nice and healthy, rest up, and then you get to host Oregon too. So that's not bad for Penn State out of the gate. For Indiana, look, I mean, they had a phenomenal season last year, the best season in Indiana football history. This year, I wonder though, man, their 3 best teams are all on the road. They play Iowa week 5 in Iowa City. They play Oregon week 7 on the road, and they play Penn State week 11 on the road. So they're going to be tested probably more than they were last year. They do avoid Michigan and Ohio State, so that's favorable for them. But pretty weak non-conference schedules for those 3 teams. Then when you look at week 1, just kind of looking across the whole board, there are only 2 teams that don't play at home. One of them is Nebraska taking on Cincinnati at Lucas Oil Stadium, so a neutral site game. You kind of get a few of those every year. You got your Duke Mayonnaise season opener or whatever. There's always a game in Atlanta. There's always a game somewhere in Florida. But so Cincinnati, which is they're in the Big 12, dude. That's so weird to me to say it. But Nebraska and Cincinnati at Lucas Oil Stadium, and then Northwestern randomly travels down to Tulane for their season opener. That's kind of intriguing, I guess.
That is intriguing.
Tulane paid a bunch of money for their transfer quarterback, and they're always pretty good in that kind of next tier. Not a Power 5 school, but they're always pretty successful down there. So, week 1, not much to mention other than some somewhat of a weak conference opponents, and then those 2 not at home games. There's a big one. There's a big one that I love.
That was it. I was going to say, let me ask you this. Is there any way College Game Day isn't in Columbus week 1?
There's no doubt. When you look across they're probably both going to be ranked inside the top 5, right? Ohio State and Texas in Columbus. What a game. What a game. What a game to start week 1, man. I was going to come back to that. I figured that one needed a little slot by itself, but just some things that are sticking out so far. But that Texas-Ohio State game at the beginning of the year is huge. Yeah,
it is. Also, I think it'd be interesting to see how Wisconsin favors down there in Tuscaloosa. They got Bama there week 3. That'll be an interesting matchup.
Yep.
But other than that, man, I think this is exciting, man. I'm excited. I'm like a kid before Christmas right now. Just looking at all these presents, all these treats, realizing that all these games are going to be on YouTube TV. So I'm pumped. I can't wait to sit on my couch and just take it all in.
It is fun to look at that. I mean, we talked about it already. Week 2, that Michigan-Oklahoma game is probably the biggest one on the slate. You've got Boston College coming to Michigan State, and you've got Iowa going to Iowa State for that big rivalry game for week 2. So those are a couple early ones to pay attention to. You mentioned Wisconsin at Bama week 3. That's obviously, that's a chance for Wisconsin to really make some noise. I would expect Bama's going to be favored in that one, but you never know. Wisconsin's a tough team to play against anywhere you play them. Minnesota at Cal. And then conference play actually starts week 3 as well. You've got Oregon going to Northwestern and USC going to Purdue. So, like I said, once you get past week 3, it's pretty much conference play, except for in week 4, there's a couple other rivalries. So you've got the Iowa State rivalry I talked about in week 2. But in week 4, you've got Purdue going to Notre Dame. That one goes back, decades and decades and decades. Then you've got Oregon hosting Oregon State week 4. And you've got the Apple Cup. You've got Washington at Washington State. So still keeping some of those rivalries alive, even though Washington and Oregon and they're in the Big Ten now. I think it's cool that they still play those rivalry games. So I mean, dude, you're right, dude. It's you just looking at that whole schedule like that. You just see all the games you want to consume and watch and break down and look at. It's so much fun. So much fun.
It is. It's exciting stuff. It's a good time to be in right now. I always have this philosophy. The best time of anything is the time leading up to what you're excited about, right? Because when it comes, when the season's there, it's like almost over. Like Chris Fowler's talking about the playoff format week 3, and you're like, oh my God, like they just started. So like embrace this moment. We are in the good part of the offseason, of the season, whatever you want to call it right now. Because before you know it, we're going to be November. We're going to be talking about how it's already gone. So the anticipation is the best part. That's my POV right there.
Man, it's probably like maybe second, third week of August every year. I'll go back to my hometown and see my dad, and he'll be like, "It's the most wonderful." he just gets so like every year it's like a tradition. He'll just get in my mom's face and sing it, and she's like, "I hate that this is happening again."
Mm-hmm.
But everybody who loves football, yeah, I mean it's what we said, 85 days away from Michigan's opener, so that means 78 days away from week 0. And it will be here. It'll be here sooner rather than later. And Grant's right. This is fun. This is the fun time to build up the anticipation, start thinking about what it's going to look like. Go down Michigan's schedule. Tell us what you think out there. If you want to take a stab at whatever Michigan's record might be. They're over under set at 8.5. Grant and I both took the over at 9. Love them to get to 10. But it's going to be tough, man. The schedule is tough at times, and you've got some new things to figure out and work out. So, that's on the plate for all the Michigan staff and players to get it right by the time August 30th rolls around.
Yeah, August 30th rolls around. It's time to get suited and booted, man. And by the time August is done, too, you are just dying to hit somebody that is not, in the Michigan uniform. I mean, the amount of little scraps and little breakups of the fights that happen in camp is, especially towards the end of camp, when you know that the game's around the corner, guys are steaming, they're ready to go. Energy's high, the testosterone's at a full max capacity, and the boys will be ready to go. So it's going to be exciting. It's a good time. I'll be excited to see how things here in the offseason ramp up as far as, when camp starts, and hearing how the rosters start to fill out and the depth charts. So got some good things ahead. I'm excited.
No doubt. That's episode 2 in the books. Another 45 minutes of great stuff. He's Grant Perry. I'm Brandon Brown. Thanks everybody out there for listening. We'll see you next week.